All right, we've made it. Last part of today's show. We want to get to our best bets of the week. We will see exactly how this segment changes as we progress throughout the football season. Maybe we're in a spot where we do this kind of segment at the end of every show for just a couple of minutes, but I have 6 picks. Will it always be 6? No. Could it be more? Yeah. Could it be less? Yeah. I feel pretty good about the 6 picks that I have. Lots of favorites. I will just say that right off the top, and that certainly could be a bit of a pause for concern for some people, but got 6 picks. We'll break them down here on today's show. We'll track them. We'll revisit them on Monday. If you want to ride, obviously do that in the comments section. If you want to pick me apart, if they don't hit, on Monday, certainly welcome to do that as well. But 4 college games, 2 professional games, and we will start with a noon game on Saturday, Clemson and Georgia Tech. Clemson is a team that a lot of people picked to be the winning team in the in the college football playoff, win the national title. I've been high on Clemson. I was expecting them to, really get back to that Clemson of old, right, that we saw with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence with Sweeney at the helm. He's got really good players on defense, lots of top 15 picks floated around that defense, and they've got a quarterback in Cade Klubnik, who a lot of people think is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They're only favored by 2.5 points on the road against Georgia Tech. I am laying those 2.5 points for Clemson over Georgia Tech. I expect them to win and cover. It kind of feels like now or never, right? They didn't play a horrible game by any stretch of the imagination. That opener against LSU, I think you need to be rewarded for taking those kinds of games in a week 1 situation. Obviously, they were at home and fell a little bit short in that game to Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU Tigers, but I still view Clemson as a threat, but it's go time. They were down 16-0 to Troy last week, and that's going to allow Dabo Swinney to really coach them hard throughout the week, put them in a good spot. Georgia Tech has just been a feisty team, kind of an ACC sleeper this year, but Haynes King's banged up. When Haynes King is healthy, they certainly are a problem, but Haynes King has been banged up, and he's all reports are that he's going to play, but if he can't run it 20-plus times for Georgia Tech in this game, that's going to be an issue for them. It's an offense that's predicated on their quarterback, Haynes King, running the football. He's done a tremendous job of that in some big spots throughout his career. I don't think he is healthy enough to go out against a ferocious Clemson defense and win this game. I'm laying the 2.5 points. Give me Clemson at noon over Georgia Tech. All right, we previewed Georgia and Tennessee earlier today in the show, and I'm going to be laying the points with Georgia as well. On the road, -3.5. By the way, these lines, it's right when we start the show, that's the lines we're operating with. So maybe you don't get the same exact line if you wait till Saturday or Sunday to put it in, but that's how we're going to operate here, just the ESPN lines going into our Friday show. So Georgia -3.5. Kirby's owned Josh Heupel. The Dogs have owned the Volunteers. I look for that to continue. They just have better players defensively. Joey Aguilar, he's shown a lot through a couple of weeks as the quarterback of Tennessee, but this defense that he is facing is going to be a defense that he hasn't faced anything like this. They're going to fly around. They're going to make a ton of plays. They're going to be locked in, ready to go. They hear the noise, right? Obviously, they're favorites in this game, but I think Kirby's going to have them playing like they're underdogs and playing with that chip on their shoulder. And I think they go out there and win this game. It's going to be a low-scoring game, and Georgia's not going to blow them out. I don't think that's going to be the case either. But I look for them to win kind of a 21-17 type of game. Maybe a 20-14 type of game, something along those lines. I do think it will be very, very low-scoring, kind of a possession game, field position game there as well. But I think Georgia edges Tennessee and just barely covers in this game. I feel a lot better without the hook if it's just -3, but I will take -3.5. Give me Kirby Smart and the Dogs on the road. So 2 road favorites there to start, which is always a little bit dangerous. And we got another college football play here later in the evening. LSU is at home, and we would have spent time talking about this game had Florida not lost to South Florida. I think going into the year, people viewed this as a great game at the beginning of the year, but certainly lost a lot of its luster considering that Florida lost to South Florida. LSU right now is favored by 7.5 points. They were my pick going into the season to win the national title. Do I feel great about that right now? Maybe not, but I think they have probably the best quarterback in the country in Garrett Nussmeier. They've got a really, really good defense. Brian Kelly hit the transfer portal, and he hit it hard. They've got a new offensive line, so you always have question marks about that. Really the first time, I guess the second time after they played Clemson, but and they did a great job answering the bell as an offensive line in that game. We'll see how they do against Florida. They've got transfers. Delane, the safety from Virginia Tech, he's an unbelievable football player. Whit Weeks, linebacker, he flies around. He makes a ton of plays. Harold Perkins there as well, coming off the injury. He's got a lot of versatility. So Clemson, LSU, they have a lot of experience. I just think they're the better team. Death Valley is going to be rocking on Saturday night. That's going to be a tough spot for Florida. And a reason why I think it's going to be such a tough spot is, DJ Lagway, who was viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the country going into this year, South Florida didn't even really put much pressure on him, and they still weren't able to move the football. That is a concern if I'm the Florida Gators. Billy Napier, I've said it for a long time. I don't believe he is the answer at Florida. I do not believe he's the guy. I believe he's going to struggle, and I like LSU by double digits in this game at home. 3 favorites. Let's make it 4. Notre Dame at home against Texas A&M. I am laying the 6.5 points with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in this game. Notre Dame obviously lost to Miami, who, by the way, is a good team. They've got a really good they're really good in the trenches, and Carson Beck, say what you want about him, but he played pretty good against Notre Dame in week 1. I've got a lot of belief in C.J. Carr. I was impressed with how he handled that game, but I don't think the coaching staff necessarily put him in the best spot to be successful in that game for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, my opinion, is the third best player in college football after Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith, and they didn't give him the ball enough. So I think, he needs to be way more in their game plan. He needs to get more touches, maybe not try to hurdle everybody when he has the football. But Notre Dame, after that loss, if they lose this game against A&M and they're 0-2, they might be in a spot where they can't make the playoff, because you look at their schedule and there's not a ton of teams that they can go out there and really say, that's a big win for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're not really in that kind of position, so I definitely think they're going to win, and I also feel comfortable laying the points, minus 6.5. Marcel Reed, we know what he can do running the football. He's going to have to throw the football for Texas A&M to win this game. I have some question marks with that. I like Mike Elko a lot. I think he's done a lot of good things for the program, but I'm going to lay the points with Notre Dame minus 6.5. So 4 favorites so far. Let's make it 5. We've got the Buffalo Bills on the road against the New York Jets, covering minus 6.5. The Bills, through parts of that game against Baltimore, they weren't playing good football, but obviously they won the game because Josh Allen put the cape on. And when you win imperfectly, Sean Payton always says this, that gives you an opportunity to coach hard throughout the next week. And that's exactly what happened with Buffalo. Yeah, they got the win, but they did a lot of things, especially defensively, that were not good in that football game. I'm expecting their defense to rebound and bounce back. They're obviously playing a much lesser offense in the New York Jets, who had a lot of success against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm not expecting the Jets offense to do much throughout this season. I think that was kind of a one-off as far as their performance there. Justin Fields is going to have to throw the football if they're going to win this game, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that well enough to win. Maybe they keep it tight throughout the first couple of quarters, but I think Buffalo pulls away at the end, covers minus 6.5. And the last play this week is our first underdog, so the 6 picks, 5 favorites, 1 underdog. Got the Seattle Seahawks. They're going on the road. Give me Seattle plus 3.5 against Pittsburgh. Again, that offensive line, we just spent time talking about it, for Pittsburgh is bad. And they got a 41-year-old quarterback that can move a little bit, but certainly can't move the way in which he used to at one point. Seattle, that defense is ferocious. They're hyper-aggressive. They fly around. They make plays. They're good in the trenches. They're good in the back end as well for Mike McDonald, year 2 as their head coach. And Sam Darnold, against that 49ers team, they didn't really score many points, but he looked all right in that game. He was able to move the ball. Darnold, of course, was fantastic last year for Minnesota. Pittsburgh defense, shaky against the Jets, right? I think Darnold's going to be able to score some points. And are they going to win the game? I'm not exactly sure, but 3.5, I definitely will take that. Give me Seattle plus 3.5. So to recap real quick, Clemson minus 2.5 on the road against Georgia Tech. Georgia minus 3.5 on the road against Tennessee. LSU minus 7.5 at home against Florida. Notre Dame minus 6.5 at home against Texas A&M. Bills minus 6.5 on the road. And East Rutherford against the New York Jets. And Seattle plus 3.5 on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll see how that transpired, but that is our first edition of my best bets of the weekend.